better shoot yourself in the foot and get a ticket home because
Jody's are gonna be all over her! Look at her!
So guys, what is a Jody? I figured I would do something new for this channel, or actually not really new, but kind of send things back to what the channel originally wanted to do, which was talk a little about military terminology. And don't worry, those military and movie reviews and military history portion of the channel will be coming this year. But I do want to go ahead and throw something out there. And of course, some of this is military terminology, which of course, some people still do not understand. And obviously, I am using bits and pieces from the film Jarhead because it's really the only military film that I could think of that actually explained or at least showed you what a Jody was.
Me, huh? Sir, I'm not gay, sir! Do you have a girlfriend, Swafford? Sir, yes, sir! Yes again, motherfucker! Jody's banging her right now! Get on your face and give me 25 for every time she gets fucked this month! Down on your face!
So as you guys just saw right there, drill instructor Staff Sergeant Fitch is obviously giving Jake Gyllenhaal's character, who was portraying Anthony Swafford, obviously he's giving some hell in boot camp, and of course reminding us that Jody is probably with this girl now. So what is a Jody? Well, a Jody is a guy who finds let's just say he finds a very quick affinity for romancing another man's wife. Of course, that man who's probably a U.S. Marine, U.S. serviceman, could be Navy, Army, Air Force. Just know this, the guy who tries to screw said man's wife or girlfriend. Now, obviously, you're seeing some things in the cut, or you're seeing some things here in the B-roll footage, and of course, I've decided to go ahead and give credit, and one of these clips, of course, came from Binge Society, and of course, I'm also giving credit to Universal Studios, because you have to do that while you're doing any form of film clips or using anything on the platform. I've been through the copyright thing before, and I'm pretty sure I'll be going through it a lot this year, especially when it comes to military films. But the thing about Jody is this here. Jody is a special kind of scumbag, in my opinion. Now, think about this really quick. You are off serving your country. And, of course, you ain't got to be overseas for Jody to come around and pick up your girl. There are actual videos of Jody actually doing, some pretty nasty things with girls out there on the platforms. That right there being servicemen's wives and girlfriends. And of course, the serviceman sometimes even has the nerve or the inclination to take the girl back even after they have ran around on him. But that right there is a different story altogether. This is not a channel dedicated to smashing Jody. But still though, what Jody really and truly is it is a man who simply has this thing for going after other men's wives. It just so happens to be that that man serves in the United States military. This type of guy is what I may have said earlier. He is a complete, total scumbag. He is a complete, total lowlife. That is what he is. Now, one of the clips I'm showing you is from the film Jarhead. If you guys have actually seen the film, please let me know in the comment section. It's not exactly one of the popular films out there, but it is definitely a film that we'll be reviewing, especially like I did in the vein of the First Blood review. We'll be talking about the book so much and actually comparing between the two. But the thing is this right here. Obviously, I'm not going to show you guys the scene of the devil dog sitting around the, let's just say they're sitting in a room and they're watching the film The Deer Hunter. And of course, if you've seen the movie, then you would obviously know the scene that I'm talking about. Devil dog puts the movie inside the VCR. He sits back. 2 seconds into the film, obviously it's been recorded over by this guy's wife having sex with his next door neighbor. Now, guys, obviously, I'm showing you guys some clips from Jarhead, and you guys can obviously see some of this is, of course, you know, there's obviously some pretty negative stuff. If you ever watched the movie, then you would obviously know that Corporal Swafford, which was really, he was a Lance Corporal Swafford while he was deployed, eventually lost his rank. That part of the film is actually true, but we'll talk about that in a movie review on that later on in the future. The thing is this right here. Obviously, he's worried about his girl back home. He doesn't want to have to do this. Now, I'm not trying to say that if you're in the military, you're in the Marines especially, I'm not trying to say that you don't need to be in a relationship or anything. But if you're in a relationship with another girl, or even if you're a female Marine or female soldier, and you're in a relationship with a guy, because there are female Jodies too, this is always the risk that you're going to run. It's always going to be something that you're going to be thinking about. And obviously, Jody doesn't really have enough, he doesn't have enough decency to understand that you are putting your life on the line for his right to be a complete total dumbass or his right to be a Jody. Fact of the matter is this right here. It's always a dangerous situation when dealing with this, and it always leads to high stress environments. There's one section in the film where he was basically said right there at the very end, he basically said, look, I want to know what it's like for somebody to screw my girl. I even want to watch it. This is called coping with the fact that he knows somewhere in the back of his mind, based through the letters or whatnot, that she's obviously running around him or could very, very well be running around him. And of course, if you watch the movie, if you remember, it was revealed right there at the end when he went to her house that there was already somebody up in there. Fact of the matter is that he straight up got Jodied. Jody, and you'll hear me say this over and over and over again, Jody is a low-life human being who has absolutely no respect for any man's boundaries. It's just the truth. It's just the thing. It's just the thing that obviously separates some men from others. Obviously, you have your... Think about it. I know I'm kind of going off script here, but think about this. It takes a lot to don a flak and Kevlar, go overseas for 7 months, get crap pay, even though it is tax-free, but still get crap pay, and know that the person that you have been hanging out with, the woman that you've been messing around with, the woman that you spend all your time with, your squeeze, could possibly go out there and run around with somebody else. And the guy she's running around with doesn't always know that this is the case, but after, said a couple of times, Jody's not going to care. He's going to keep doing your girl regardless because, quite frankly, he's already gotten in the groove of actually having some fun with your old lady. Fact of the matter is that Jody is and sometimes some people who were Jody don't mean to become Jody, but of course they end up becoming Jody, which of course is a heartless scumbag who does not care about the fact that you were overseas being a real man defending this petulant child who's extremely immature. And you'd be surprised at who some of these Jodys really and truly are. And I'm not trying to say be paranoid with every Jody out there, but obviously Jody's a real thing. But if you guys remember his reaction, which I can't find on YouTube, then you will know that obviously old boy was definitely devastated. He couldn't believe that his wife had done that to him, especially while he was on deployment. Now, I don't want to turn this video into an anti-woman piece, but there are obviously women out there who marry a serviceman, and the minute that you go overseas, they will, in fact, try to sleep with another man. Sometimes it happens by way of going to the bar and running into somebody and feeling lonely for 2 seconds. By the way, I don't condone her doing this, nor do I feel sorry for her doing this. But the thing is this right here, she will oftentimes go do this, and next thing you know, the legs will fly open, and therefore she has just helped create a Jody. But you see, the thing about Jody is this here. We have to ask ourselves a question. What is an intentional Jody and what is an accidental Jody? I'm going to tell you guys a very quick story from my time in. Don't worry, I'm not going to mention any names or anything like that because obviously there are guys who watch my channel and some people I do serve with will probably hear this story and think, my God, this story sounds very familiar. Like I said, no names will be given. During my first deployment, one of the other companies, let's just say there was one of the staff NCOs, not a platoon sergeant, but if you know the Marine Corps ranking structure, how a company works, you may have an idea of what said individual is. We're about a month and a half away from going home, and this guy who's probably like in his mid-30s, he's married to a woman who's in her early 30s. Now, I'm not trying to say age is the thing that does this, but bear with me. So she decides to go out in town. By the way, I was stationed in Camp Lejeune. So you guys, if you've actually been in the Marine Corps and you've been stationed in Camp Lejeune, you may or you may not have an idea of some of the clubs. We'll just say that the club, the letter, it begins with an S and it ends with an X. Funny. Okay, so she goes out there and she runs into a young Marine. I think it turned out that he was a PFC. He was actually new to the fleet. And she takes the young PFC, the young boot, home with her. Sleeps with him, of course. And then we found out later on that 4 or 5 days later, he was carried back to same said house where he did it again. Now, I'm pretty sure that he would have figured out by the time he went in there that this girl right here was obviously married to a Marine. The story that we later on got was that she had apparently told this young devil dog that she was in the process of getting a divorce, which doesn't make it any less Jody, just throwing it out there. The thing is this right here. This young devil dog, PFC, was eventually snuffed out by his command, and they forced him to call said individual that actually patched him through. And of course, the guy that's in the sister company with us, He obviously chews him out, but he decides not to lay into him so bad because he realizes that his wife is more at fault. So there are cases, in fact, where the wife is actually more at fault than said devil dog. Still, though, at the same time, if you're a young devil dog and you definitely suspect that this woman may be married to another Marine or married to another soldier or whatever, it might be a good idea for you to get the hell out of the house, or else you will be labeled forever. But then we get into this next territory, which is he a Jody if he screws around with said Marine or serviceman's wife, and let's just say wife is in the process of getting a divorce or is actually divorced? Well, if it's actually divorced, then chances are you're not a Jody. You're just screwing with a guy, you're just screwing with a man's ex-wife. At that point in time, it's game on. However, if said person is in the process of getting a divorce, remember some states have different divorce laws. For example, the state that I live in, North Carolina, you have to be separated for at least a year before you file a divorce. Technically, these two could get back together, and it's not uncommon for said Marine to file separation or Marine's wife to file separation before Devil Dog goes on deployment, and then wife goes back to where she's from for, say, 6-7 months, and then for whatever reason she chooses to go back and get back together with him. Oftentimes said woman will, of course, be fooling around for 7 months. It's kind of like an out for her to just go screw around and do whatever while her husband's overseas. Now, in that case there, technically you're still a Jody because guess what? She's still legally married to, said soldier, sailor, or Marine. So therefore, at that point in time, if you're still screwing around this girl who's in the process of getting a divorce and he's still deployed overseas, if you do this, guess what? You're still going to be labeled as a Jody. Fact of the matter is, Jody is not a very good human being. Sometimes there are accidental Jodies that, quite frankly, can't help it, but that's a bunch of crap right there, that you can always help it because there are certain little signs that will be given off. But then again, though, at the same time, there are also those who have been duped. If that right there is the case, I really and truly don't know what to tell you to get that stigma off you. But the fact of the matter is that Jody is a low-life human being, and quite frankly, Jody should not exist. But we have to deal with Jody from at least some points in time. And of course, Jody is always a risk. Jody is always a possibility. But do you blame Jody more, or do you blame the wife and girlfriend for sleeping with Jody? I think you should blame the wife and the girlfriend a lot more for screwing around with Jody. You got to understand something right quick. You were getting involved in a relationship with a guy who was serving his nation. And I can already hear somebody in the comment section saying, well, maybe he was unfaithful to her or whatnot. Look, if the marriage is not happy and it's unfaithful and there's a lot of adultery going on there, maybe you should just straight up divorce. Just walk away from there, because if it happens once early in a marriage, it's probably going to happen again later on. Also, something else, too, if you slip up and screw around your wife, guess what? The minute you're out of the house, guess what she's going to do? She's going to want to get back at you. So what's she going to do? She's going to go find a Jody. So the lessons, of course, are simply don't be a Jody, number one. And number two, for God's sakes, if you put yourself in a situation where Jody may come around, you may want to get out of that marriage before Jody comes in and completely wrecks your entire world. And with that right there being said, guys, I want to go ahead and halt this video now. Just figure I'd give you guys a bit of an explanation, a little bit of military terminology, give you guys a video on a Thursday afternoon before we start doing video essays. If another video like this comes out 3 or 4 days afterwards, it's probably because I'm busy working on said first essay of the year, which will probably be me following up on my Rambo video with Rambo Part 2, asking the question, was it really and truly the worst film in the series? With that right there being said, guys, Gear Issue 33, you can also call me Semper Gumby. Please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sound off in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later.